To calibrate an E-field probe EO probe with its related optoelectric converter eoSense, you need also an adiabatic TEM cell eoCal, a vector network analyzer with 2 high-quality RF cables, an oscilloscope or any other data acquisition device. First, make the calibration of the VNA so that the measurement reference planes are the input of the 2 RF connectors. Here, we have used a SOLT calibration. After having plugged in the 2 RF cables using a torque wrench, we have connected both RF cables to a short, a 50 ohms load and a through as requested by the VNA. Once the VNA calibration carried out, please make sure that RF power is disabled on port 2, otherwise you may damage the output stage of the optoelectric converter by direct injection of RF power. On the contrary, set the RF power of port 1 to its highest value. Then, define your frequency range of interest together with the frequency step. Now, the probe calibration can start. For that purpose, first plug in the adiabatic TEM cell to the VNA and record the S21 parameter of the cell. For the second configuration of the experimental setup, you have to connect VNA port 1 to the adiabatic TEM input while connecting its output to a 50 ohms load. Be sure that no RF power will be injected to the optoelectric converter output before its connection to the VNA. Then, plug in the norm factor output connector of the converter to the oscilloscope. Mount the probe on its holder while paying attention to the orientation of its sensitivity axis. Then, insert the holder and the probe inside the adiabatic TEM cell and lock it with 2 screws. Then, plug in the probe and record simultaneously the S21 parameter of the E-field probe with its norm factor thanks to the oscilloscope. If the norm factor remains perfectly constant like here, you just need to write the value without real need of recording its temporal evolution. Now let's make the calculation of the probe antenna factor. For that purpose use a spreadsheet with the first column for the frequency, the second column for the S21 modulus of the adiabatic TEM cell, the third column for the S21 modulus of the E-field probe. As seen on the experimental results, S21 modulus for the considered ET1 air probe lies between -80 and -90 decibels. This implies a choice for the VNA IF bandwidth lower than 1 kHz. Indeed, we recommend an IF value of 10 Hz. Data of 2 last columns are the norm factor and the antenna factor of the probe. The last column is calculated using the following formula. The reference norm factor is given in the factory calibration file of the probe. For accurate calibration, it is recommended to carry out the measurements with both TEM cell and E-field probe in a small anechoic chamber. Using a VNA with more than 3 ports, both S21 parameters of adiabatic TEM cell and E-field probe can be simultaneously recorded.